do a lot of crazy things sometimes.
Words are the building blocks of conversation. Words can flow in great rushing torrents, or slow in reflection.
It hurt your ears. It was so quiet.
It's said that a picture's worth 1,000 words, but there are times when there's no substitute for words. We call on words to do many tasks, among them entertain, inform, provoke, and express a person's self. A range of emotions reside in words. Hi, I'm Bill Landry. Join us as we explore the power of words on Heartland Tonight. Words echo our thoughts. Everyone has their own choice of words. It's natural. It's just the way we express ourselves. It's a good thing that there's such a variety of words to use because we're a talking bunch around here. Tonight we'll listen to a little chin music.
Big thing was in this cuss around, raise racks, this, that, and other, make moonshine whiskey, stuff like that, and crowds around.
Explore the lyricism of mountain speech.
But I can tell you one thing, you better not set this up in a cup and leave it till in the morning and try to eat it. It'll turn black overnight.
And get a sense of place from the poetry of Jeff Daniel Marion.
From the right bank, a stone wall. It has survived one more season.
We start off with the written word. Without writing, the history of many early American civilization comes from the interpretation of archaeologists. In the midst of time, a civilization dims or glitters with that interpretation. Sequoyah gave the Cherokee their own voice. He was an illiterate half-breed, the son of a poor Indian woman and a white trader. As a crippled child, he was ridiculed. For much of his adult life, he was cast aside by his family and friends. They thought he was crazy. In fact, he was brilliant, and his achievement is unparalleled in the history of man. His name was George Guess, but we know him by another name, and this is how he wrote it. Sequoyah. Only 6 times in the history of man has an entirely new alphabet been invented. It's a process that takes scholars working for hundreds of years. No one has ever invented an alphabet entirely on his own until Sequoyah. In just 12 short years, this illiterate Cherokee accomplished a feat the world had not seen in 5,000 years, the birth of a new alphabet, a new beginning for an entire nation, the Cherokee. As a boy, Sequoyah was excluded from playing games with his friends who taunted him because he had no father and because he was lame. Sequoyah went off into the Smokies to teach himself the ways of the world, to hunt, fish, to think. He drew great strength from solitude. In the clouded imagination of a lonely Indian boy, the seeds of greatness were planted. In 1814, Sequoyah fought at the Horseshoe alongside Andrew Jackson against the Creeks. There he saw soldiers passing messages on bits of paper. They could make men laugh and cry and even send them into death. He knew that these talking leaves held great power, and he vowed to give that power to the Cherokee. His people were afraid of his work. They thought Sequoyah was in league with evil spirits. His own wife even burned his work, but he went back to it. It is said that in the sound of a bird's song, he got the inspiration to complete his great work. He realized that it was the sound that was the key. In 1819, his task was complete. 85 symbols, every combination needed for his people to communicate. At a council house in the Smokies, his syllabary was put to a dramatic test. His daughter Ayoka was taken several miles away from the council house. Sequoyah was instructed by the tribal council to write out a message on a talking leaf. Ayoka was then led into the council house to read the message. Sequoyah looked into the eyes of the daughter he loved as he handed her the most important message he'd ever written. If she could not read her father's writing, he would surely be killed as a witch. In a soft, shaky voice, she read the council's message to the letter. From that day on, news of Sequoyah's great talking leaves spread throughout the land. In a few months, virtually the entire Cherokee nation could read and write. Once threatened with his very life by those he held most dear, Sequoyah became the greatest Cherokee of them all. He single-handedly brought the power of the written word to an entire nation.
But I says I don't drink much, Doc. I said, this is what my neighbors gives me for I said. And I said, they don't even give you much high. I said, there's no ways what I said.
Coming up, Balty Maloney takes us on a verbal adventure.
This old fellow was walking through the woods, and for the sake of ease, we'll say it was an Indiana woods, so it wasn't all uphill. And all at once he heard this little voice saying, "Hey!" And he looked around, "Hey, down here!" And he looked down, and there was this little green frog down there by his foot. And he bent down and he picked it up. And he looked at the frog for a few minutes. The frog looked at him, winked, and said, "I'm an enchanted frog." He said, "You kiss me?" He said, "I'll turn into a beautiful woman and I'll do your every bidding." The fellow looked at it for a minute and he tucked the frog in his pocket and he walked on through the woods. He got home a little later that morning and he heard this, "Hey!" And he reached down in his pocket and he pulled out this frog and looked at it again. The frog said, "I don't think you understood me." He said, "I'm an enchanted frog." He said, "You kiss me?" He said, "I'll turn into a beautiful woman." And he said, "I'll do your every bidding." And the fellow looked at the frog for a minute. He said, "Oh," he said, "I understood you all right. But," he said, "at my age, I'd rather have a frog that talks."
There are those among us with the gift of gab. They set loose their tongues and let fly from subject to subject. Never a loss for words, Balty Maloney has that gift. Visit with Balty and just hold on for the ride, because you're in for a verbal adventure. What was it like in here? Was it rough?
Well, it used to be pretty rough now, but not too often many people are getting killed or something like that.
You hear him? That's because you're in Hancock County, close to Snake Holler.
Big thing was, they'd just cuss around, raise racks, this, that, and other, make moonshine whiskey, stuff like that, and crowds around. Maybe steal a chicken, frying chicken or something off of you once in a while like that, or something like that.
His speech is Appalachia's past and fading present. It echoes a time when all communication was oral, not written. Meet Snake Holler's native son, verbal acrobat Balty Maloney.
Versy, Valdy, Vester, Velmer, Vergie, Vernace, and Verger. Named the last two Elmer and Caleb. Run out of V's, don't you see?
His language is part Irish, part English, part mountain, and all wordplay.
What'll stand in the barn and eat hay all night at a time can see out one end as it can the other. Blind horse. Let's see, what goes all over the hills and hollers and bites and can't swallow then? That's a frost.
It's Chaucer's Middle Age English revisited. Listen for the double plurals in forest and post.
But we'd get in there, in the wintertime, we'd take axes and things and clear these forests, make new grounds to planting corn the next year. Fence posts, we used to use locals for fence posts and things like that, barn poles. I was telling you about them people up there.
Drop the consonants and embellish liberally. It's a style of speech that enjoys plenty of drama.
He's showing, why he is sure took a drink of intoxication. I'm setting you up, you hadn't said that off, you then.
A back and forth pace keeps it lively. Chin music, some call it.
I run into she has a bunch of children. That lady, who's all these children belong to here? She said they belong to me. That's how many you got? She said 16. Well, I said 15's all I can count. Where's the other than that? She said I had them up here on a construction job where they was building a big school building that and said I lost one. Said I went back up there to find it and said I found it in a 50-gallon steel drum of oil. Said I pulled it up and looked at it and just put it back down in there and said I'd rather raise nothing anytime clean you up.
How did news get around?
Well, I might be a-talking to you, and tell you might see whenever you hear it and you tell him what I said, he said, and it spreads, you know what I mean.
Clearly, in modern times, mountain speech grows ever fainter. Long as there's clever spit-and-whittle philosophers like Balty Maloney, the common man can get a hearing.
There was no trouble me to get a job. My trouble was working when I got it. I told him, Mister, I said, I'm looking for a job back to him. I said, I'm broke. And I said, I've got a son-in-law says he's broke. He said he's sorry, but he wasn't hiring nobody. Well, if you ain't hiring nobody, loan me $10 then. That's the first time I ever seen that man. More or less, I didn't care. And I wanted to tug it if he'd named him. Well, he says, I'll tell you what, you stick around and I'll see if I can't hunt you something to do. I told him he'd rather loan me than to, I said he'd rather work me than to loan me. He'd figure he wouldn't got his money back if he'd loaned me. His reason put me to work it out.
If Valty needs something to talk about, he only has to look out at the beauty of Hancock County, where he lives. When we come back, we'll explore the lyricism of mountain speech. It's simple and direct, and at the same time vague and complex. It floats on the air and glides into our ears. It's the everyday speech we hear but don't always notice.
The music of the mountains flows in the language of the people. Listen.
But I can tell you one thing, you better not set this up in a cup and leave it in the morning and try to eat it. It'll turn black overnight.
It's lyrical.
If the hand of Providence hadn't retrieved me, I couldn't have answered her.
You can hear the last vestiges of the old world in it still.
Somebody wanted to buy my soap one time, and I told them I didn't have no soaps to sell. I had it for myself.
It's active, alive, drifting, the linguists call it.
There's the Scotch-Irish source, there's the English source, and there's sort of a general source.
Wherever the Irish, English, and Scots settled, particularly down the Appalachian Valley, they brought it with them. Linguist Dr. Michael Montgomery takes us back to school. The subject, our own language.
We think this stuff is Elizabethan because we read Elizabethan literature, but in fact, a lot more of our speech is from Scotland and Ireland.
From the Big South Fork, listen to Mrs. Ellen Miller referring to us.
I wonder where Ewan's got all them pictures.
She says Ewan's. You all is also used.
Both of those go back to Ireland and ultimately to Scotland.
You all comes from ye and is found in the English King James Bible. Johnny Ray Hicks uses it.
You've seen people that could read a book and you couldn't get a bit of understanding out of it, ain't you?
Now, when the Scotch-Irish came over, they were pronouncing you as ye, and ye plus all made y'all.
That's good.
Leon Harvey, hunting fiddleworms, is combining one to other words, a Scots-Irish trait.
I hear a little bitty one coming up right now, so there should be some big ones come up in a little while. Well, I've not even seen a little one, let alone a big one.
Arlenia West does it too.
Regular milk cow, them old black ones, you can't milk them.
And that's what we have with Ewan. Ewan is you once.
The equivalent greeting is still used today in Northern Ireland.
They say usins. They use the Irish word use, which means you more than one. And they still put that suffix on it, use once. So you go to Belfast today and they talk about usins come see us.
An English trait is that we alter sounds.
Wouldn't hurt that little more soda.
And of course, it's the same thing that's given us the Grand Ole Opry. From opera, we get Opry. From soda, we get sody. The female name, Sarah, is Sari. From the very earliest days, the Scotch-Irish began to borrow and trade language and other things with English and Germans, whatever. They were never isolated.
Poke, meaning a sack, came from England. It's related to the word pocket. Tote came from Africa. Since settlement, we've adapted, assimilated, survived. Our language did too.
Language is subconscious and it's intuitive. It has a life of its own. We carry along in our everyday culture, and who we are, and the way we talk, the way we think, what we do, things that we're unaware of from our ancestors. And so in a way, we're sort of an echo of them from generations past, carrying on, even though we might not be aware of it.
Within what might be termed a picturesque turn of phrase, mountain speech can be whimsical and alive with an air of poetry.
There's lots of conversation on the ground.
You just can't take what you lined on and and go on, for they just like me and you and everybody else have got to have a little learning.
There's trouble coming down the road. That is Scottish. They for there.
From the beginning, it was alive, active, with language roots in Ireland, Scotland, and England. We call it Southern Mountain speech.
Mountain people talk the way they do partly because of where they came from, partly as a response to the new country. They've created a lot of things here that are actually new.
If you get a whole lot of that gritted in it, it's more flavorful.
Well, he was a good liver in here, but he never did work nowhere. I've got as high as 50 and 60 at one stop.
It's inventive and creative.
Well, we trucked them on trucks. Tumble-bugged them on the trucks most time with them old hooks.
Mountain speech, above all, is practical.
Why, yeah, every what he done, I done.
Done, used as a helping verb for emphasis, is Scots-Irish in origin. It means already or completely.
A lot of fellas is as old as I am, done been planed a long time ago.
He's already out, so he's done crawl up crawl.
We hold to our traditional culture. It is not isolation that has slowed our change in speech, but that many have resisted changing. Specifics like numbers, how much, are often peculiarly vague.
We logged down there right smart little.
How many is right smart?
Well, that's probably relative. It sort of depends on the context.
Merman Woods tells us how many marbles.
Oh, I've shot several marbles away in these things.
In traditional mountain speech, that can mean 200 or 300. That doesn't mean 6 or 8.
Listen to how Kenneth Payne intuitively avoids giving exact numbers.
Down our crossroads, they just to kill them every little bit. Not just a boy like.
Was a lot of people getting killed down there?
Yeah, there's several of them.
So does Leon Harvey.
Yeah, gobs of them.
How many is a gob of worms?
More than you'll ever count, probably. Certainly more than you'll ever need. More than I expect you to get.
There are many negotiable terms.
Probably leprechaun hats, don't you, yeah?
Well, I reckon that settled it. They didn't.
I think it comes out of a day when everybody had to live together. There was a lot more give and take between people. Perhaps you couldn't be as direct with folks because you knew you had to depend on them for something else the next day.
We continue to carry our language with us, like a genetic imprint, as our new history unfolds.
The last 25 years, it's a different world. The world has come to Southern Appalachia.
Listen to it while you can. Enjoy it.
Our daddy made of what wagons we had.
Don't be ashamed of it. Many think it will soon be gone.
Wet days comes, I wash and iron and clean the house and things.
For our children are connected up to a different world.
There is a strength and a vitality and a persistence in mountain culture that I think is still going to be there in another 100 years.
For even education can't completely breed the King's English out of us. It remains still. Some say, still yet.
Next, the words of a poet. All of us are shaped by where we live. For Jeff Daniel Marion, the realities of that molding emerge in the imagination of his poetry.
On an antique printing press handed down from his father, he translates his words to the page. Jeff Daniel Marion is a poet. His ancient press is as much a symbol of his poetry as it is a tool for capturing it.
I'm not interested in nostalgia. I am interested in searching for that which is valuable to me, that which to me is real, solid, lasting, true, that which gets beyond the limitations of time, that which is going to be enduring.
Like his mighty press, the poetic vision of Jeff Daniel Marion is anchored solidly in place.
It's a vision, I think, that honors the value of living on the land, living with the land, and understanding your place on this particular patch of ground.
In Rogersville, he spent his boyhood listening to the parade of storytellers outside the old country store.
Oh, I don't think I remember specific stories so much as I just remember the feeling that I had of soaking in that kind of joy in language.
It is this joy of language that his poetry celebrates, as in the poem, In a Southerly Direction.
It's just over the knob there. You know the place. The one up there next to Beulah Justice, your mother's second cousin on her daddy's side. Or if you go in by the back road, it's the farm across the way from Jesse's old barn that burned down last June with them 2 fine mules of his. Why, hell, son, you can't miss it. It comes from hearing time and again people in this area tell how to get from one place to another. It shows how much the person's caught up in where he lives. So even in a simple act of telling somebody how to find a place, you're revealing your love of the place, your love of the people. I want anyone to be able to come to the poems and to experience something there.
A common theme in Jeff Daniel Marion's poetry is the sense of permanence that comes when people are bound to a particular place. This permanence is at the heart of this excerpt from his poem, Lines.
On the right bank, a stone wall. It has survived one more season, ice, and the earth shrugged to return its stones to the creek bed. These mute lines speak a labor of hands my father knew, and his father before him, stone placed upon stone as a defense for the road above. Just beyond where I stand, it turns over the hill, its lines reaching toward other places. There are not many who travel this road today, mostly those who pass with a single line. Going far? I speak my reply, not far, and turn back, my mind reaching down through the line of sycamores, rooting itself deep in this place.
Tirelessly, the press of Jeff Daniel Marion rolls on, striving against time for permanence. Many are poets after a fashion. Listen to what a person says, how it's said. The way a person talks expresses much about who that person is. These poets of everyday life reveal themselves in their words. See you next week on Heartland Tonight.